So I should start making my own frameworks while I am revising my content. And here you can utilize your AI. Ask the AI, give me the frameworks for generating points in this perspective. So you would be getting, okay, so these are the 5 or 6 perspective. Here you can generate your own content. Identify your sources, and once you identify your sources, don't try to change them too much. At least you should have at least 2 readings before making your own notes, so that you would be knowing that this is the description part I can generate on my own, but this is the fact, this is the event that I can forget. So answer writing is a gradual process, so cover at least for the now you would learn how to structure your answer. First the content part, then the structuring part, and then third comes the value addition part, PYQ. So the PYQ is considered as the holy grail of our understanding, especially the prelims as well as the mains. Then not only the repetition of the themes, what are the dimensions the UPSC usually asks. Very good evening to all of you.
Good evening, sir.
First of all, and what I learned over the period of time, that if you progress in a more conceptual manner, then you would also be writing your conceptual understanding in your answers. So first of all, we should understand, because all of you are beginner only, so our focus should be on understanding the very concepts that are required. They would be required both in the prelims as well as in the mains. So the more conceptual understanding you are having, you would be presenting in your answers. And for each paper, each separate paper of GS1, 2, 3, 4, there are different elements that are required for each paper. So because each paper contains so many different subjects. For instance, I talk about the history. So when in the GS1 we would be writing history, we should ensure that our history answer should have the dates, should have the events, should have the personalities name, should have some maps and a specific example related to that history. Only then our answer would look like a history answer. Similarly, if the question is like related to secularism and it is asked in the GS1, then our answer should look like a more society answer. The popular coexistence, the religious plurality, and other kind of things. What if it is a section, this question specifically is asked in the GS2, then the question would revolve around the constitutional elements, the articles, the jurisprudence related given by the Supreme Courts. So that it should look like a GS2 answer, polity answer. So for each paper, there is a different elements that are required. So we would be discussing in the ahead of our workshop. First of all, basically we have to ensure कि जो हमारा framework is we are going to discuss. So our preparation in the initial format itself should look like that we make our understanding in a more structured format, so that we are aware what are the mistakes we are not supposed to do again in our final attempts. So first of all, the syllabus. You all of you must be aware of the each part of your syllabus, each concept, each keyword written in the syllabus part. You should be aware of it, and you should make them more descriptive in your own notes. Just try to replicate in your copies, your own notes, the syllabus points, so that when you write on your own, you would know, okay, so this part is also there. For instance, in the GS2 itself, there is a specific topic of the separation of powers. This has been mentioned in the syllabus point. So whenever you would be learning or reading something related to newspaper, okay, so there has been some tussle between the executive and legislatures, some tussles between the executive and the judiciary. So you would be quickly understanding, okay, this is the related to our separation of power point, and I can give it as an example in my answers. So keep this habit of learning each point of the syllabus on your own. Then second is the PYQ. So the PYQ is considered as the holy grail of our understanding, especially the prelims as well as the mains. So for the mains itself, the what are the various themes that are asked by the UPSC again and again? We should understand them. Then not only the repetition of the themes, what are the dimensions the UPSC usually ask? Sometimes they would ask the comparison, sometimes they would ask the what are the challenges, sometimes they would be asking the what the government has done, what can be the done. So you can see them in a more holistic format. So this is the status, this is the the what is the challenges to it, then what are the suggestions the government has taken, and what are the my suggestion. For instance, this in the GS3 there is a specific topic of the animal husbandry. So when you understand it, how to generate number of how to make your own notes for this subject. So for you would be making what is the status of the animal husbandry. Here you should have the specific data with respect to animal husbandry. What is the contribution to the GDP? How many people are employed in the animal husbandry? What is the status in the in the world? Then secondly, what are the challenges for our animal husbandry? Then what the government has already done, so the different initiative you would be writing, and for each initiative you should have a crisp note. Okay, so these are the 3 or 4 points with respect to one initiative. For instance, this Gokul mission, so I should have at least 2 3 main crucial points of that Gokul mission. Some similarly veterinary services, so I should have something related to veterinary services what the government has already done. And then I would be giving my own recommendation. And always ensure that your recommendation should always be multidimensional. They should cater to something, some things related to institutional reform, something related to individual collaboration, something related to public private collaboration. So different multidimensional perspective should be there in your way forward or the recommendations. Okay, so the PYQ is the holy grail. Then identify the sources. When you have seen the what kind of the PYQs are being asked again and again, then you would be aware, okay, so this is the source I can cover from these sources only. So you should ensure looking through the syllabus as well as the PYQ, then ensure identify your sources. And once you identify your sources, don't try to change them too much. Rely on them, understand the frameworks for each subject, for each sources, and then try to replicate into your answer. Don't try to multiply your sources. Otherwise, your notes would be too much scattered. So sometimes I would be reading Lakshmikant, sometimes I would be reading this source, then I would be reading the value addition notes. So it becomes too much scattered, and we need to revise them multiple times. And we can only revise multiple times when we have a very consolidated notes. So whenever you want to do some value addition, do into your own notes. Don't try to get a new sources for your study. Because the source is very limited. So source should be always be very limited. Then comes the notes part. So then try to make your own notes, not by the just first reading. Okay, so I read this NCRT and I would be making my own notes. Otherwise, you would be just replicating entire NCRT into your own notes. So ensure at least you should have at least two readings before making your own notes, so that you would be knowing that this is the description part I can generate on my own, but this is the fact, this is the event that I can forget. So the whatever things you might forget into your answers, only then you should write into your notes. Otherwise the description part, for instance, if I have to write my in my own notes that Harappan civilization emerged in the 19th century or the second millennium BC, and it continued up to the mid half of the first millennium BC. uh, so this point I would not be writing into my notes, because I might generate on my own. What I would be writing, Harappan civilization 1900 BC to 1500 BC. Yeah, 2020 to 2500 BC to 1900 BC. So this is the main point that it should be there in my notes, so that when I would be writing into my introduction or in the body part, I would be generating on my own description. So ensure what is the most required thing that should be in their notes, so that our notes are not very bulky. Otherwise, what we usually do, we make our notes very bulky and they are not revised as a whole. Okay, then comes the part of the answer writing. So once you are done with your notes making practice, then start practicing your answer writing. Answer writing, usually we as a toppers, we don't tell kids we should start answer writing from the first day, because we should, yeah. Okay. So basically, what should we do? Because we should not have everything, start writing everything from the first day. Otherwise, you would not be having very much confidence. What should I write? Because to write something, you should have the content to write. Otherwise, what would you write? So if I ask you the basic features of the Harappan civilization, the question was last year only. So you should know the first of all Harappan civilization itself. You can't generate your points on your own. So that's why you should cover at least some portion of your subject, and then start writing your answers. Okay, so answer writing is a gradual process. So cover at least for each paper, at least cover 70 to 80%, and then start practicing your answers. And then you would learn on your own. Okay, so in the initial part, our focus would be on the content. So what content should be right in our answer? Then comes the stage of structuring of answering. So sometimes what would happen, you would be having the content. For instance, the question was that the our state governments seems to be reluctant to empower the local self government bodies, urban local government bodies, comment. Now you would be having this content. So in the initial part, you would be having the content. Okay, so the our urban local government bodies faces the challenges of 3F: function, functionaries, and fund. So, but this question is not asking this point. So, what we can do in the initial part, we can at least start with this point. Okay, we can would be writing. Okay, so the seems to be reluctant because there is no financial power, there is no functionaries allocated to them. Then the functions have not been devolved. What the question demanded, the real question was that why they are reluctant. So the question was why. So because the state government thinks, because there would be clash between the state government power and the local government power, and there would be more accountability from the local government powers. So these are the major reasons they are not they seems to be very reluctant. What we were writing, the function and functionaries point of thing. So what, at least for the starting point, we can write from this perspective. Then gradually from for some part we have covered, then we would be understanding, okay, the structuring was something different. Now you would learn how to structure your answer. First the content part, then the structuring part, and then third comes the value addition part. So in my last practice session of the answer writing, I would be learning how to give my committee's recommendation, how to give my examples of different states who are doing good in the devolution, for instance Kerala model. So this is my value addition. So I would be doing in my third practice session. So in the initial part, at least, so that in the initial part, why we are starting with the content, because we want to break the inertia of answer writing. Otherwise what we are very reluctant ke, okay, I would be doing answer writing once I covered entire syllabus, but we can't cover entire syllabus as a whole. So at least start writing what have some content, then start writing, then start practicing the structure of that answer. And that there would be required your mentor. So mentor would be telling you, okay, the structuring of this answer could have been different according to the demand of the question. So answer writing some a bit later. Okay. Then comes the revision. So everything's come down, boils down to this fact of how much have revision have you done. So if you have done multiple revisions, you would recall quickly. And the only thing that is required in writing answers, that is the content you can recall on your own. So we do two things. First thing, we revise whatever we have written in our notes so that the revision part is quick. Then second is we also start generating on our own content, so that for instance I have written in my content what are the role of the governor. So the question might come that the we should remove the post of the governor. So when I was reading my own content, I would be having different points. The governor is the critical link between center and state. Then another point would be that it is the constitutional continuity in the state. Another point would be it provides the आपका जो headship to the state. So what, when I how to learn the frameworks for generating on our own content. So I would be thinking, okay, so when the first point was that it is the critical link between the center and the state, it is thinking from the center's perspective. That's why it's a question point from the, it is a critical link. What when is saying that it is the constitutional continuity in the state, so this is thinking from the state perspective. So I would be learning gradually the frameworks for answers. So the content should be more crisp in when we start making our own frameworks to make our own points. Okay, so start learning the different frameworks. For instance, we should learn what are the challenges for an organization. So if the question come that the national commission for or other backward classes is not functioning properly, comment. So and the second time might come that ncbc ncsc is not working properly. So I should start learning what are the challenges that an organization face. It is the legal challenge, is it the constitutional status that is it has not been provided. If it has been provided, it has not been given the administrative power, or it is not having the functions, or the functions are very overlapping, are there is administrative power, there is the manpower that is required. So for every organization, these are the elements that are required for a successful work functioning of that organization. So I would ensure that I would make a framework for those answers. So for each organization, I need not to replicate each time the different content. The same content I would be using. The only thing I would be changing the articles, the basic example that the NCSC has done, basic example NCVC has done, but the content would be the same. So I should start making my own frameworks while I am revising my content. So when you revise, you should not revise just to do a rote learning. you should start learning how you have written your examples or the content from a perspective, from a framework. And here you can utilize your AI. So give the AI, okay, so give me this perspective, ask the AI, give me the frameworks for generating points in this perspective, or give me the example, the framework for generating framework for the urban local bodies. So you would be getting, okay, so these are the five or six perspective. Here you can generate your own content. So here the comes the use of the AI. Then last, the full length test. So we usually recommend that the full length test should not be written very frequently. In the initial part, our focus should be on the content revision and other thing. In this, for instance, if you are planning to give your prelims next year, then your focus should be around September, October. You should be aware of your content. You should have the basic notes for each paper. Then from the October, November, December, there you can write your full length test, so that you learn how to complete your paper on time. But in the initial practice sessions, our focus should not be on the very completion of the paper itself, because the time management and other things you can learn during the prelims and mains. And there the focus shifted towards the time management. The focus shifted, and the in the initial from October, November, December, your focus should be on coverage of your syllabus, coverage of your content, and answer writing on a like recalling syllabus points. So focus should be on that part. So there is a two different chronological things. So another thing is the between the prelims and mains, our focus on the completion of paper within the time. So which question should I attempt first, which question I should try to do in the last. So these things we learn during our prelims and mains. But during the October, November, December time period, we would be learning the which portion of the syllabus I have covered, which portion of the syllabus I have given the sectional test, and which portion I am not having model answers. So I should have the model answer, so that I can include them into my own notes. So utilize your model answer during that period to enrich your content. Okay. सो बेसिकली 450 का पॉइंट वही था कि इट्स नॉट नॉलेज टारगेट. सो अवर टारगेट इज नॉट दैट हैविंग टू मच नॉलेज, rather we should learn how to generate our own content, so that we are not very burdened with the knowledge. So because it's not a rote learning game. So the how much you can recall, the rote learning is only required in some areas, only to learn the data, learn examples, learn case studies. Here you are required to do at least learning. For instance, if I ask you the attorney general article, so then you should have the specific article recalling. Otherwise, this is the point there, the rote learning is required. But what is the role of the attorney general? That I should learn what is the legal role that attorney general can do. Then what is the propriety role the attorney general can do, and what are the different role. Then I would be learning to do on my own through my revision of the notes and making my own frameworks. So basically the focus was that, because you all of you are the beginners, so you should ensure that your strategy in such a manner that your notes are very crisp and your revision is quick and multiple times. Again, this another point was I was making, that you should not segregate too much your prelims and mains preparation, because every time you would be seeing the the prelims is becoming a bit more uncertain, and the more you cover in an integrated manner, you would be at a advantageous position. Because every time you would be asking, the for instance, if you see the questions of the history of this year, you would be saying that the most of the questions were very lengthy, and they were more conceptual in nature, and you were supposed to have a good understanding of the chronologies, good understanding of the different sources that were there in the history writing. So if you cover in a more integrated manner, you would be having advantage both at the prelims stage as well as the mains stage. Especially in the during the mains, the point is that the prelims knowledge can be utilized as examples, as a good example, as a value addition part. So I should ensure that I am learning my prelims things in a more conceptual manner, in a more factual manner as well, so that I can replicate them into my mains papers as well. And especially there are these are the things that are required, especially in GS1. So for instance, if I have to write the GS1 answer, question was around the what is the cultural contribution of the Gupta, suppose. Then I should write that the architectural contribution. I should have the specific example of the Gupta architecture. So Dasavatar temple, Bhitargaon temple, Vidisha temple. So these temple I should mention into my arguments. I should not write that okay, Gupta has contributed immensely to the architectural development. This is a very vague point. I should give my specific example. Then I would be writing the sculpture portion. So I would be writing that the sculptures has reached to a zenith or to a great excellence. Then I need to substantiate my point. Here comes the point of the Patliputra sculpture style. So this is the example. We usually what we usually do. Okay, so this is the Patliputra. I would be learning in the prelims, but I forget during the mains. So when you do in an integrated manner, you would be knowing that I need to mention into my mains argument as well during these points. So the similarly in the geography, for instance, the question is like a cloud burst. So the question was around in 24. The question was on the cloud burst. So we usually study during our prelims that there is a air instability, there is a orographic rainfall, and then the precipitation and other keywords, but we forget during our mains preparation. So we should answer write our arguments that there was the orographic rainfall, there is a air instability, there is a cumulonimbus clouds. So a specific point should be there in our arguments in the mains. So in the gs1 history, history and geography. Similarly in gs2, the articles, the case laws that we usually read during our prelims, we should have a command over these case laws. Then in the IR section as well, so the different initiatives or the different steps that the government is taking with the other countries, so we should mention into our arguments itself. And then in the gs3, it's all about the current affairs. So the more inclusion of the current schemes, data sources you can mention into your gs3, more marks you would be getting. And during my all three attempts, I have seen that what I used to do in my gs3, because I was having a good command over the current affairs, and I always show in my current affairs, I show in the gs3 answers my current affairs knowledge, and I always got around 95, 96, because I was showing that I know the current affairs, and I was showing them into my answers. So in the GS3 itself, your prelims knowledge, the facts, the data, the example, the case studies, the government initiative would be required in the GS3. And GS4, the more examples. So GS4 is a more static portion, but keep on working, especially the what are the ethical issues that are emerging during the current affairs period. For instance, the technological development. So the question is AI versus ethics, and then sometimes the question would be the immigration, illegal immigration, and the ethical challenges. So the current development that are happening, the ethical issues that are involved in that current affairs. So keep on working on those current affairs as well from this ethical perspective. Okay, then revision cycle we would be understanding. So our we have already discussed that from the July to December, our focus should be integrated understanding of the prelims as well as the mains. So ensure that you are making your notes during this period. So whatever notes you need to have, and make your notes till the December. Along with it, ensure your current affairs revision daily. So your newspaper daily, your current affairs magazine, one current affairs magazine, and if you are having time, also listen some newspaper analysis. There are good number of newspaper analysis daily from the different institute on the YouTube. You can ensure so that you are keep on working or revising your current affairs daily, and so that you do not rely on the and that in the by the time of the prelims I would be revising the consolidated notes of some institute. Instead of it, keep on daily so that you can recall on your own when the times come. Then our focus from the January to May, our focus should be shifted towards the completely prelims, the facts, the data, the events, so whatever it has been, and ensure the static portion is covered properly from the standard books, along with that, the current affairs. So because you would be doing current affairs from this month only or from the May month itself, so by the time you start revising your current affairs, you would be aware. Okay, I had read during the August period, this was in the news. I had read in the September, this was in the news. So you would be not very burdened. Okay, I have not covered current affairs. Otherwise, what we usually do, we keep on from this time to the December, we keep on making our own notes of static portion. So what we make our notes very static, and they are not very value enriched with the current affairs data example, etc. And secondly, from the time of the May January itself, we are very burdened. Okay, I have not done current affairs, I'm very worried how to cover it. And then we start, okay, so I get this consolidated PDF, I would be reading it. Then you are just doing for the namesake, you would not be recalling at the time of the exam. But if you revise, for instance, you have done May section, for in the May, suppose the question, there was some discussion on the post of the CAG. Then again, during the October period, there was the discussion on the CAG. So from that magazine itself you have revised that content. Okay, so because the CAG has come again in the news, you have revised it, so you have consolidated your understanding of this CAG. Then in the January period you were reading your Lakshmikant, but you quickly recall it because you have already done from the May and as well as the October. So that's why you should keep on revising your current affairs magazine. And from the June to August, our focus entirely shifted to the maze. So in that period, our focus shifted to the time management. So because what I have seen that in my second attempt and especially in my first attempt as well, I always falter in completing the paper. So I always could not complete at least 10, sometimes 15 or 20 markers. So that always hindered my rank, good rank, because I was doing good content. But I was not completing the paper. So our focus shift to complete the paper itself, how to complete first question, then how to shift towards the last question. So which content I am having good command, I would be writing it first. So I would be discussing the time management in the last. Okay, so the main is specific answer writing and the value addition. So there the focus should be on the model answers. So whatever test series you are following, you should get the model answer of that test series, keep the content, value added content into your own notes, so that whatever lacunas you are having there, you are not having enough time to make your own notes. Whatever notes you were having, you had that one, along with it just add the model answers into your own notes. Don't try to make your handwritten notes, just collect them and revise them multiple times. So the first focus would be the integrated coverage. So prelims and mains, so entirely coverage of the fundamental topics, whether it is a history, whether it is a polity, whether it is a geography, have conceptual clarity for each subject, and conceptual clarity in a such a manner that you are aware what is required in the prelims part, what is required in the mains part. So if I ask you what is the challenges in the related to our monsoon weather, like climate weather, then you should understand that there are the late monsoon arrival, then early withdrawal, then the dry periods among them, then the regional disparity, then the time disparity. So these kind of things you should have the kind of frameworks you were having. So when I was learning my during this period till the December, I was having the perspective, okay, this is the prelims part required, this is the main part required. And then from when I have this conceptual clarity, then I would be working upon the factual clarity. Okay, then second, sharpen prelims while retaining mains notes. So you had already made the till the December your notes. Now focus shift to the prelims, and prelims for the prelims, never try to make your own notes. Just rely on the ready-made material that is available, because there is the prelims, there is the always the knowledge of ocean. So you can't get so much content written on your own notes. Okay, so just keep on revising whatever content you are getting from different institute. Okay, and then last is convert for the between the prelims and mains, whatever notes you were having, just try to replicate into your answers. Then at that point of time, you should not try ke, okay, so I was not having my content, good content, I had made very bad content, so I would make my own content again, or I would be reading some new material on your on the whatever get I can get from the Telegram. Don't try to do it. Just rely on your content, whatever you have made, then try to remold according to the demand of the question. So your content is primarily because you had made your own content, you can recall on your own very quickly. Otherwise, whatever we for instance, I had made my own notes, suppose, then if I can read my own notes, I would be recalling them more quickly. But if you try to read my notes, then you would be forgetting what was there in my notes. So that's why you are suggested that you make your own notes and relied on your own notes. Don't try to rely on some other notes. Okay. Okay. So, for instance, I was discussing that don't segregate prelims and mains too much, because integrated approach is required. Prelims knowledge becomes example for the mains argument. So, I had discussed that. For instance, the question was the Harappan architectural feature 2025 ka question tha. So, when I would be writing the architectural features of the Harappans. So, I would be mentioning the Lothal, the Kalibangan, the Mohenjo-daro, the Harappa, and other key sites, because I was having the knowledge of that prelims examples. So I should mention them. Otherwise, what can I write? Okay, so urban planning was there, drainage system was there, reservoirs were there, but I need to substantiate them. through the example, specific example. And that's why there is a requirement of the prelims knowledge. So integrated always is all approach is always useful when the question is more multidimensional. For instance, in 2023 the question was that the geography shaped the history, comment is the तरह का question था in the GS1. So the when I would be thinking, I should think in a multidimensional manner. First of all, the chronological example I would be bringing: the Harappa, the Vedic period, the Mauryan period, or the Magad Empire. Why it succeeded in the Bihar region? Then I would be bringing the Pallav and Chol conflict with due to the Raicho Doab. Then I would be bringing the architectural features that have been shaped by the different climates. So in this manner, I would be thinking in a chronological manner. I would be giving the specific example. I should also sure that my examples are reflective of my India. So some example would be related to Kashmir, some example related to the Northeast India, some example related to the Southern India, so the Pallav Chol, some example related to the Gujarat area, so that my answers are always reflective of my all Indian understanding. So make them multidimensional. Then, for instance, how to cover the subjects. First of all, identify the specific areas that are required through the syllabus, then go through the PYQs, and then link them. For instance, always you would be seeing in the GS1, there is a question related to urbanization. So why is it so? Because urbanization has been mentioned as a specific topic in the GS1 itself. So keep on going through the syllabus and the PYQ, then start making your own notes. Okay, so identify the what are the micro themes. For instance, regionalism. You would be finding that in the GS1, there is always in some form or other, the question would be related to a regionalism. So make your own notes. What does the regionalism mean? What are the basic examples of the regionalism? What are the factors that are promoting regionalism? How, what is the negative effect? What is the positive effect? What can I do? So make your own one page or two page notes for each topic, micro themes, and identify micro themes through the syllabus and the PYQ, and then keep current adding current affairs. For instance, there was in the last year only, there was a conflict or strife related to language. So the three language formula was there. So there was the conflict between the northern and the southern part, so you can mention it. Then there was this in the Karnataka government was emphasizing on the Kannada signboards. So this is the current affairs that you would be writing into your honors, add your current affairs, and then use the standard books along with the AI. So AI here come handy, that if you are not finding how to generate my own points, how to make a frameworks, there you give a prompt that AI give me the frameworks for this answer, not give me the content. Content you should not get, you should not outsource to the AI. Otherwise, AI would be giving you too much verbosity in your points, and you would not be recalling on your own. Rather, try to generate your own points, get the frameworks from the AI. And basically, what should we do when we are making our notes? Our notes should be very crisp and very short. It should be more in an exam oriented format. We should not try to write in a more descriptive format. We are not writing novel, or we are not supposed to write a very essay write thing. So we should make our own notes in a such a manner that one key argument, one example, another key argument, example, so that in my entire one note, for instance, I was making the notes of the regionalism. So within the notes, I would be having the definition of the regionalism, two, three, four example, major example of the regionalism, what has been the history to evolution, major evolution steps in the regionalism, then what are the factors for regionalism, then what are the positive impact, negative impact, what can I suggest or we suggest as a country, what should we do, and then and so in the entire one page I would be having my regionalism notes ready, and then I would be trying to write my PYQs based on these notes. I try to remold this content based on my own notes to the according to the demand of the question. Okay, so for instance, society and geography as well. For the geography part, you should utilize your NCRT. The diagram you should have. So for each diagram, for each topic, especially geophysical phenomena. For instance, tsunami. Last year tsunami question was there. This time might the question might be on the earthquake. So I should have a diagrammatic approach, because geography is all about diagrams. So you should show that you are having model answer and model and models of the geography. So different diagrams for the geography along with the keywords of the geography, and here you can utilize your NCRT. There the keywords are good, so try to consolidate your keywords from the NCRT itself. And for the society, keep reading your newspaper very thoroughly, so along with the syllabus point, so that you would be getting too much good example from the society. For instance, I was talking about this Kannada signboard. I was talking about this three language formula. Along with it, there I think until 2022 or 23, there was this case of the Darshan Solanki, IIT Bombay suicide case. So this you can write as a example of the case, caste discrimination, other thing. So you would be getting good example from the newspapers and the current affairs. So keep adding into your notes. So static portion, you would be utilizing some standard books from the any stand institute. Along with it, value enrich them with the current affairs. So basically, the our how to make our notes, I have already discussed that our notes should be very crisp and answer format. So basically, when we make the bulky notes, they are more like a summaries. So when we do we try to make our notes in after just first reading, we try to replicate everything that was there in our notes to into our own notes. So don't do it. Revise at least once or twice. Then you would be finding, okay, this is the basic necessity that I was supposed to write into my own notes, and then your notes would not be very bulky. Because when the bulky notes, what I used to do before I give my first attempt itself, I try to utilize so much good keywords, good examples, and whatever it is in the newspaper. I would be trying to write on my notes, but I have never gone back to that notes. So, what is the utility of that bulky notes when I can't go back? So, we always love when we start preparation. So, we always try to get good statements from the newspapers. Okay, this is a very good statement I would be using, but you would never using it. So just try to get a grasp of that statement. Never try to copy and paste into your own notes, because it is not of any value at all. Okay, so answer ready notes should always be there. The format should be question answer format. So when you're for instance, you have seen the five PYQs related to the communalism or regionalism or caste related issues, and then when you are making your notes, just keep into your mind what was the question that was demanding. So I think the question was sometimes back. The question was that the regionalism is increasing because of the identity issue. So do you think so? So in this portion, when I was writing my own notes, so I would be okay, so what are the identity factor that might be there that are promoting regionalism? It might be the language, it might be the identity related to ethnicity, might be the regional identity as well. But then I would be giving, okay, so this is the one part, but another dimension is the economic factor, the political factor, the relative deprivation factor, the development deficit. So when I was making my own notes, I would be making in this manner that I can generate my own content through these points only. So ensure that you have gone through the PYQ multiple times to understand how to write and what to write into your notes. Okay. So and always have the examples ready for each paper. GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Examples are very much required to substantiate your argument. Otherwise, our argument might be very vague and generic in nature. Okay, so the multiple revision convert every topic into one pager. How to definition, regionalism, caste, communalism, etc. Why the topic is important? Because the topic might be in that because of the news, the topic because of the impact, positive impact or the negative impact. Similarly, and that some relative dimensions, so positive political dimension, economic dimension, cultural dimension. Then what are the challenges or the what are the negative issues? Then example and case studies, government initiative, for instance, Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. So I should have this example of the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat into my notes so that I can mention them. Similarly, Kasi Tamil Sangam, this is the example for the fostering the regional diluting the regionalism and increasing the national identity. And ready-made conclusion, you should have how to ensure that regionalism is diluted and the national identity is promoted. So for every topic, have at least ready-made conclusion, but don't try to impose your conclusion in every answer. Try to contextualize your conclusion according to the demand of the question itself. So always try to contextualize. Don't try to impose your conclusion that you have made. And if you can, for instance, in the history answer, you can draw a map. For instance, the geography answer, you would be making diagrams as well as the map. So and for the society, you can draw the flow chart. Then for instance, there was the question of the women's self-help group. So we should try to break into dimensions. So always try to think in this perspective, how many dimension I can break into. For instance, I can write the SSGs empower women, what empower women in what dimensions? They empowered women in the political dimension, because you have seen that in the Andhra Pradesh itself, 1.4 lakh women have got up to the leadership position because of the SSG. So this is the political dimension. Then economic dimension, economic independence, access to credit. So different dimensions, social confidence. So they can fight against the social evils, dowry, alcoholism, and other social evils, child marriage, political participation, digital inclusion. So nutrition and health awareness. So because of they were having good purchasing power, they can ensure the good nutrition to their children, to themselves. And then the community resilience. So when there is the SSGs, there is the development of the social capital. And then the disaster recovery. So during the disaster, they are very handy. They are act as an institution. So I should not try to write this empowerment. I should try to bifurcate into different dimensions of empowerment, so that there would be good key points for my answers. So always, this is the part you can get from the AI. So ask them, okay, in what dimension I can write my own answers, and then you would be getting your frameworks. Then you can add into your notes challenges. What are the challenges for the SHGs? They always remain to be very short lived because of the migration of the women, or they are so because of they because they remain very I should say short, because they are not having very access to capital, the manpower, the technical professionalism. Then what are the relevant example? Azibika of the Bihar, the lecture paper, other example you should collect on your own. Then institutional support, the government, what is government is doing. So SSG linkage program. And then what are the future reforms? And your reforms would be multidimensional. Institutional reforms, the social support, the organic support, other relevant factors. Okay. Then what should for instance in GS1, so when you are beginner, so you when you would be making your answers, what should you focus on your along with the class notes? For instance, in the GS1 history, you would be always be learning the chronology. So always learn the chronology. Okay, so this was the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Vedic period. So have a chronological understanding along with the continuity. So what is the continuity and what has changed? For instance, in 2024, the question was or 23, I guess, Vedic society and religion, and along with it, what is the continuity of those practices into our present day situations. So ensure that you have the good understanding what is the continuity of those tradition. So for instance, the yag practice. So yag practice is always going on from the Vedic period itself. So these are the different things that you should ensure. Similarly, the caste endogamy and hexogamy. But so this is continuing from that period. So ensure that what is continuing during this time, I should have good understanding. Then what is the, for instance, causes and consequences? For instance, the question was the Battle of Plassey was more important or less important than the Battle of Buxar. So I should have the causes. What are the causes of the Battle of Buxar, Battle of Plassey, and what has been the result? The consequence, I should have a multiple consequences: the economic consequences, the political consequences, the social dislocation, the cultural discontinuity. So consequences should be very diverse and multiple perspective. Then regional variation. So I, as I discussed, that I when I give my examples, I should give example from a multiple perspective. The Kashmir example, the Gujarat or Solanki example, then from the southern India, from the northeast India, so that my answer or my perspective looks more like a all Indian perspective. Then maps and location. So always try to, especially the examples or whatever you are getting, especially the bhakti sense. Suppose the bhakti sense. So I should draw a map and I should show different bhakti sense. For instance, Narsi Mehta in Gujarat, Kabir Ji in UP or Bihar, and then Guru Nanak Ji in Punjab region, then the Mirabai in the Rajasthan region, Shankarachar, and then Ram Manoj. So different achars I should show on my map. So this is our value addition that we usually do. Otherwise, what all of us would be writing the different points, but this is our value addition that we can use, and we can show the factual detail we are having. Okay, the social impact, the gender vulnerable, especially this is very handy in the GS1 society points. So the elderlies, the childs, the transgenders, the persons with special abilities. So these points are very important to generate our own points in a good manner. Then historical comparison. For instance, the question might come that the Gupta administration. So when I would be starting, so I would be writing, okay, so the Gupta administration was in comparison to the centralized and bureaucratic system of the Mauryas, it was a less fragmentary and decentralized. So I should always have a historical understanding, historical comparison between different dynasties and their contribution. So that if a question is like a Mughal contribution, so I can start with the Delhi Sultanate evolution, and then I would be coming to the Mughal contributions. Then present day relevance for each theme. For instance, the teaching of the Buddhism and Jainism. So the teaching of the Gautam Buddha and Mahavir. For last year only, the question was in the GS4. What are the teachings of the Mahavir and what are the current relevance of his teaching? So always try to understand the, especially the value written part. So the teachings of the Ramanujachar. So what was the his role and what is the current relevance? So the Bhakti movement that started, it was because of the philosophical underpinnings given by the Ramanujaj. Then geographical processes. For instance, this industrial maps, the automobiles, why they are developing in this region. Then pharmaceutical industries, why developing in the coastal regions. So understand the geographical locations and their reasons, because there is a specific keywords of the within the syllabus, historical, the location of the industries, and the question would be from there. And then human environment interaction. So this example you can give the sacred geography. So the sacred trees, sacred groves, and so environment. And similarly, the question might come in the upcoming years within the history itself. The environment has shaped the history. So how would you write it? Then you would be writing within the Indus Valley civilization itself, the decline is considered that it was because of the changes in the environment. So you can develop in through this perspective. So every history, in everything in history, you should ensure ke what changed, what is it continued, why it has changed, and who were all affected. Okay. So, value addition in GS3, small maps of world and India, then timelines in history, we have discussed. Then thinker or scholar references, especially it comes handy in the GS1 modern history part. So, the question was last year on the Mahatma Phule ji. So, when I was writing on the writing about the Phule ji, I was mentioning the Golamgiri book and the inverted Aryan theory that he gave. So, you can mention specific keywords, specific books related to different personalities that were there. Then regional example we have already discussed, and the data, especially so in society, always try to collect that data as well. The census would be coming, the NFHS data would be coming, the CRS, SRS, SRS data would be coming. How have their data, TFR, birth rate, death rate, and similar to that. So these points would be making your value addition. These argument you would be giving, but value adding with this specific content. Okay, then brainstorming dimension, how to generate. So urbanization create opportunities as well as governance challenges. This might be the question. So when I would be always try to identify the specific keyword which is plural. So opportunities. So then you can think, okay, what kind of opportunities in which dimension? Whether it is economic dimension, whether it is employment dimension, whether is the social dimension. So, for instance, economic mein employment I can give, the consumer goods, the services that I can receive. Then in the social, the anonymity that is there. So it ensure the women empowerment. It ensure, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So okay, so let's discuss. I should remove it first. Then okay. So now think. So opportunities, because it's a plural word, so always try to identify when you are you would be reviewing your PYQs. Ensure that you identify the specific word that can be generated into different subdimension. So opportunities and challenges, so that opportunities, then I can think from a multiple perspective. Yeah. Okay, okay. Just in the 30 minutes, I would be covering more major issues. Then in the GS2 itself. So in the GS2, we are supposed to cover in a more constitutional format. So ensure that what are the different parts of the constitution, then try to generate your points in that format. For instance, the question was that the judicial independence is very important for the I guess for the sustenance of the democracy. So how would I develop points for the democracy? So I would be thinking democracy in a more multidimensional perspective. I would be thinking if the independence of judiciary is there, it would ensure that our constitution is itself is strengthened. So it is called the guardian of the constitution. So constitutional amendment would not be very arbitrary in nature. Then the fundamental rights, so my fundamental rights would be protected, liberty, equality, another example. Then I would be writing that separation of power would be ensured between the executive, legislatures, and the judiciary. Then I would be writing that there would be a strengthening of the parliamentary oversight because of the independence of judiciary. The criminalization of politics and other things would be minimized. Then I would be writing the federalism perspective. Then I would be writing the decentralized governance issue, so a strengthening of the decentralization. Then I would be writing free and fair election. So you can see that when I was generating number of points, I was thinking from a constitutional template. So because our constitution itself has had been divided into different parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, and for each point I was thinking, can I bring something from that part related to democracy itself? So you would be thinking that for frameworks into your mind, and then think of the case law. So for each topic, bring some case law. For instance, freedom of the press, Ramesh Thapar case. For instance, for instance, constitutional amendment. So NJAC case, then the first judge's case, second judge's case, and other cases. So try to develop. You should have the case laws understanding into your mind. Okay, so these are the basic points that I had drawn from your syllabus itself. And you should have different notes for each topic in detail, because the question would be around these topics. Along with it, for instance, it is said in the polity there are two type of question. One is a factual question. For instance, what is the role of the CAG? What is the role of the attorney general? So it is a more factual question that could be covered through the prelims part, for the from the Lakshmika and other thing. For that part, you should have a different understanding of the specific facts related to that topic. So what is the for instance, what is the three role of the attorney general? So the representation of the government in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, then giving the legal advice, etc. So these are the specific fact that you would be getting from the from the Lakshmikant. Other question is the critical point. So what is the role of the governor and should be removed? So it is a more analytical question. For analytical question, keep revising your notes that you would be getting from different institutes. Along with it, link them with the current affairs, so that the current example you would be bringing along with it the different arguments that are there in the newspapers. So for each topic that is going on in the news, for instance, anti-defection law. So when you would be reading your editorial, you would be getting what is the significance of anti-defection law, along with it what are the challenges. So gradually you would learn, okay, so this is the points that I can write into my argument. So try to make your notes around these topics in a more conceptual manner. So for every topic, link institutions, accountability, and citizen impact. So for each government initiative, what the government is doing and what positive impact the government this initiative would have on the citizen centric development. Okay, so ensure this. Then PYQ discussion, we can do this, discuss the evolution of the collegiate system in 2025 itself. This question was there. So the one part is this, discuss the evolution of collegiate system. So you are not supposed to just write, okay, so there was the first judge's case, there was the second judge's case. Write the reason behind each judge's case. For first judge's case, what was the reason behind the Supreme Court or the our constitutional judiciary gave supremacy to the executive? Because it was supposed that because the constitution itself has provided this constitutional provision that the legislative and the executive would be deciding it, and because they are accountable to the people, so they would be doing in a more fair and free manner. What in the second judge's case itself, the constitution, the supreme honorable Supreme Court changed his interpretation. Why? Because it found that the when we allow the supremacy of the executive in the decide in the appointment of the judiciary, it would make compromise the independence of the judiciary itself. So I should write these reason behind what was the reasoning of the honorable Supreme Court in each judge's case. That's why it asked the discuss the evolution of collegium. So I should discuss in detail. I should not just mention, okay, first judge's case, there was the supremacy, second judge's case, supremacy of the judiciary. Why was it? So give the reason. Then critically examine the advantage and disadvantage. Then there's a simple point. So it's an analytical question. So give the example advantage. Okay, so the independence of judiciary, the guardian, the protection of the supreme, the independence of the judiciary, the guardianship of the fundamental rights and other factors. Then negative, though it compromise the independent. What is the it is called? Yeah, the uncle syndrome. So it is there. Then Yeah, so different issues are there. The transparency is not there. Then another thing, factor is the unelected judiciary is there. So then they are not accountable to the judiciary, but they are accountable to the constitution itself. Yeah. So the advantage and disadvantage, and then because there is a different portion within your syllabus, the comparison. So they mix the both point, the comparison of the appointment procedure in USA and India, because the question is usually, because while give the suggestion, we give the different models of the UK, of the Australia, of Canada. So that's why they have asked it. So ensure the evolution, advantage, disadvantage, US comparison, critical example. Critical examination means not description. So give the reasoning part. Okay. Especially GS3 is becoming very hectic for, especially even for our rankers, because we are not getting good marks in the GS3. The problem is that all of us know about basic things about the science tech. We all can write about the disaster management. We can write about the environment. But what we falter here, we don't give the technical words. And the GS3 is a technical paper. So for each part of the GS3, there is a specific technical words. Economy, so there is a fiscal deficit, current account deficit, fiscal consolidation, input inflation. So these are the keywords that you need to mention it. Then similarly in the agriculture, so give a like a input, output, then marketing and other factors. So try to bring multi-dimensional argument for each point. Along with it, bring the data. The data is very necessary in the GS3. Keep on learning multiple data for each point. So one or two data for one topic, then another one or two data for another topic, so that you have a good compilation of data, and keep on revising them. Don't try to read like we used to do that during our mains preparation. Before just coming of the mains during in September or August, I would be reading this consolidated data sheet that is coming in the market, but I would not be recalling it. So what's the point of learning it? Rather, what I should do, that from for each topic I should have some data, and I would be using it on my own needs. So keep on having some specific data and utilize it according to the demand. For instance, I have learned, and what is the easy way to remember different data. So always make some reference points. So what I did, for instance, is food grain production. So I how I remembered it, that in 1950s there was the 55 million tons. How I had remembered, because I had made the reference point of 50. So I would be thinking, okay, 5 more than 50. So 55 MMT. And in 2023-22, the development, the food grain production was 330, so 330 million ton. So I had made 55 on 330. So I would be remembering two, because I have made two reference point. So always made some reference point along with think whatever is more suitable to you. I was suitable. I was more at ease because of the at percentage point. So I would be learning, okay, 50, 45%, 75%, 76%. So always think, okay, so for instance, you might be at ease because of the, you can think in a ratio format. So you would be thinking of two-third of the two-third of the GDP, one-third of the GDP, two-fourth of the GDP. So whatever you are at ease, just make habit of converting whatever data you are getting, convert it into your own perspective. So if some data is giving in the millions, but you are at ease with in the lakhs, so convert it into the lakhs, in the crores. So whatever format you are at ease. Well, but remember data, because it would be required in the GS3. Along with it, the examples. So for instance, in the internal security, examples would be very much required, and whatever the government is doing, that would be very much required in the security paper. Because during the recent year, our security architecture it has been very overhauled. So remember the initiatives that are being discussed in the news, in the arguments. Okay. Then along with it, what was the this infrastructure? So in the infrastructure point, have the notes ready for the airports, for the ports, for the railways, roads, and whatever the green energy is going on. Have the what is the status? What are the significance of that infrastructure? What are the challenges in that infrastructure, and what the government is doing? So have the proper notes for the infrastructure. For each year, there would be some question related to infrastructure, and you would be supposed to write answer in a more data format. So give the specific data of the significance of the government initiatives, etc. And always make a habit that you would be writing through a number of points. So in the GS3, don't try to be a more descriptive in nature. While in the GS2, a more description is needed, especially in the governance and the social justice part. So there you should write the description along to the catering to the demand of the question. But while you are writing GS3, you should write in a more format point format approach. Okay, so for instance, in 10 marker, try to write at least 8 to 9 or 10 points. 15 markers, try to write 14 15 points. This you should write in a point format. Okay, and always try to write, especially when you are giving your recommendation. For instance, for instance, agriculture. So I would be giving my recommendations. Along with the recommendation, a way forward, in the bracket I would be mentioning the government its steps on my own. So for instance, I should write that the government should focus on the agriculture infrastructure. In the bracket I would be writing PM agriculture infrastructure fund, so that in the bracket I would be showing the evaluator that I know what the government has already done. So you would be showing your own factual knowledge to the evaluator. Okay, so the this nature of the economic growth in India as jobless growth, do you agree? So now need to think. Okay, so let's do one more time this exercise. Okay, so what is the thing that you can think when you think that why is the jobless growth? So why is it so, and how do you argue it? What? Okay, okay. Let's think. Why is it so that in our country it is said that the India is seeing the jobless growth? First of all, we should substantiate point. Okay, what is the jobless growth means itself? So what does jobless growth means? Employment. So it is said that the employment elasticity of our GDP is not increasing. So the technical word is employment elasticity of our economy. So we should start with this point itself. So our employment elasticity is was coming even beyond point one. So it was showing that employment elasticity is going down. Then why is it so? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Now we need not to describe it too much. Just we would be writing a structural shift from agriculture to services directly. Khatam. Agla point पे आएंगे. Then capital intensive manufacturing. So the even the manufacturing that we are having, for instance, we are having Apple manufacturing, but it is a more capital intensive. For instance, we if we are producing semiconductors, but because there the requirement is more capital, not the labor. So neglect of the labor intensive agriculture. So this is the another point, labor intensive agriculture finish. Another third point, agriculture productivity not increase. That's why we are the underemployment within the agriculture. Fourth point. So what I can thinking that I would be writing very short crisp point with trying to multiply my points. Okay, so this is our habit. How to generate number of points. Think from the sectors. So agriculture, then manufacturing, then services, then construction activities, then export import. So then you can thinking the whatever the different themes you study in economy, try to bring some issue in that portion. So in the agriculture we bring some portion issue, manufacturing we bring some issue, the in the services we bring some issue. For instance, within the services there is the informalization of the economy. So the even if you develop jobs, but these are not the decent jobs, so the quantity is there but quality is not there. Then the employability of our graduates itself, so this is also a major factor. Then skill shortages are there, vocational education is not there. Then the reduction in the share of the public sector, but increase in the private sector. But private sector is driven by the contractualization of the jobs. So AI, so the automation would be bringing here. So the reduction in the demand of the jobs and the reduction in the skilled nature or the employability of the then another factor, the your outsourcing of the manufacturing capability to the Southeast Asian nations or the import dependency. So it is also affecting. So I would be thinking what are the different themes that I study in the economy, and I would be trying to generate arguments from that perspective. Okay, so we have discussed it. So basically, the employment trends, the sectoral shift. So sectoral shift, as you have discussed, then the productivity, informality, and the policy gaps. So the policy gaps, it is said that the our national manufacturing policy came way back in 2012. Now we are not having very specific industrial policy. So policy gaps we can also identify. Okay, so for the GS4 dimension, for instead, for the GS4, we should have the conceptual clarity along with the short definitions for each topic. So, ensure you go through your GS4 syllabus very thoroughly. Do it multiple times and understand how it is linked with different topics. For instance, the later portion of the GS4 section A, it is more governance and ethics, while the in the initial portion section 1 is topic A, 1A to B, it is related to the ethics and the public life, or the why ethics is necessary for a good life, or the challenges in our public life is related to narrow conception of a good life. So it's a more overarching type of question. So think different dimensions: social dimension, environmental dimension, economic dimension, cultural dimension, along with the examples. How would you generate your examples? You would be generating example from the history, so the world history along with the Indian history, then along with the polity. So the polity, the role of the governor, the role of the speaker. So what are the ethical issues in their roles? So how are they impartial? How are they partitionally behaving? So these kind of the example, the examples of the judiciary, the examples of the honorable Supreme Court, High Court, and other constitutional functionaries. Then example from the economy. So the different scams, scandals, Satyam scandal, other scandals. Why is it so? So from the economy, you would be bringing different positive as well as negative example. The example of the Tata, example of the Fab India, who is converting wealth, waste to wealth, similar. So bring different example from diverse area. So you should have good command over the example in the GS4, along with the conceptual clarity. And for the conceptual clarity, revise your static notes along with it, that proper definition, short crisp definition for each topic of the GS4. Along with it, also ensure that in the GS4 always practice case studies. Never try to just, okay, I have learned the framework of case studies, I would be writing on my own. You should practice it. Otherwise, what is required, that you are supposed to cover it in the 15 minutes. Each case studies is supposed to read and write within the 15 minutes. But when we don't practice it, it might take even 25 minutes or even 30 minutes. So always make an habit. Once you cover your GS4, try to practice daily at least one or two case studies. It would take just half hour or more than half hour. But when you keep on practicing, it would build your momentum. And then you would be learning how to give the positive and the negative effect of each suggestion very quickly. And then you would be giving your recommendation along with the philosophical underpinnings. So ensure that you practice your case studies daily once you cover your GS4. Okay. Okay, it's nice. So we can think of the, okay. So what are the? This is our last PPT, I guess. The major teachings. So identify the major teachings, not teaching. Then try to think from the multiple perspective. Anikant ba, then the celibacy and other thing. Then example the relevance. So the relevance is very simple. So when think from the multiple perspective for the economy itself. So he focus on the not stealing. So not stealing, not in the sense of directly stealing. Even when you are doing commerce, you should be very transparent about your products to your customers. This is also very not stealing. Then be fair to your raw material suppliers. Be fair to your labor. So in the economy, I had think that. Then in the polity, I would be thinking something. In the environment, with respect to human environment interaction, I would be something relevance of their his teaching. So think of a different teaching. For instance, in the society, the issue is hate speech or the fake news. So the perspective of Anekantbad or the Shyadbad. So everything is a specific perspective. So why should I be very fundamental in my approach? Because it's a very perspective. So I should be very tolerant. I should be very acceptance. I do should have acceptance of multiple perspective. So his teaching of Anikantbad might be useful to address the extremism and the fundamentalism in our society. So think from the multiple perspective how to generate points. Okay. So public life. So example from public life. So bring the example of the bureaucrats, bring the example of the politicians, bring the example of commercial class persons. Okay. And last is current affairs. So I had already discussed in our initial discussion itself. For each current affair, for the current affairs coverage, I usually follow a three pronged approach. Daily newspaper reading, this is the must, because you must have seen the CSAT of this year and the kind of the comprehension that were there. If you have not practiced your linguistic capacity, if you had not increased, you would not be able to revise, do it within time. So if you keep on reading newspaper daily, your linguistic capacity would also increase. So do practice newspaper. Along with it, there are so many newspaper analysis every day. You just give half hour or 1 hour while you are walking around, you are having tea. Just keep listening to it. You need not to suppose even make notes, just listen to it. Because I keep on listening them, so I remember too much data, example, and good keywords from these newspaper analysis. So keep on listening daily. Other than this, two things. Another, other than this, the magazine. So every month, one magazine. Daily, some 4 or 5 pages of one magazine. So there are 30 days. Just divide the pages of the magazine. Just cover 4 or 5 pages of magazine, so that each after each month you would be revising your own magazine in a some different format. So it helps me revising my static portion as well. So sometimes the governor came in the news, sometimes the AG came in the news, sometimes the fundamental rights were there in the news. So I would be revising through the magazine itself, so that I would not be burdened about, okay, so I am not covered my current affairs. So don't rely on the consolidated notes for the current affairs, rely on the monthly magazine, so that the content keeps sinking into your mind. Okay. So go through the newspapers, then the magazine, then that's it. So this was my overall discussion strategy, and especially it is very useful for the beginning. So because I had seen for the 4 or 5 years, I have gone through it, grinded, and I have seen that what are the lacunas that I had made into my first or second pains. Then I try to improve it. So that's all.